Hey guys, good evening, happy evening. And today we have Lavin who is joining us from Abu Dhabi. And he's picked up this particular movie, which I've been ignoring for a long time from the suggestions on OTT. It's called Parasite. So let's hear from Lavin as to why he chose Parasite. मतलब नाम सुन के मैंने इसको actually बाजू लगा दिया था. But let's hear from him as to why he chose this particular movie to be reviewed today. Thanks a lot, Lavin, for joining on the show and taking time out to review this.
Thank you, first of all, and to WurkTV, for this amazing opportunity. I love reviewing stuff. Anyways, anybody who knows me knows that. So, thank you for the opportunity. And why Parasite? Okay, so I saw this movie, I think, around Feb last year when it released, and I was just completely blown away. I mean, I already knew it's a pretty good movie before going in. I had been tracking the movie for some time, right from the trailers when it had started. But when I saw it, I said, okay, even after seeing the trailer, like I was so blown away. And why did I really like the movie is, see, this is a very telling tale on class divide that exists. Okay, but usually you hear these kind of stories packaged in a very different way, right? It'll be very obvious to you that they're talking about class divide and they're talking about these subjects. There'll be some commentary in the movie which will kind of hint at it. But here was a movie which was talking thematically speaking about the class divide between the rich and the poor, but which is actually saying so many more things if you really go and observe it, at a much more closer level. And the other thing I really loved about it is how it completely bended so many genres into one without really intending to do it. So it starts off being, a light comedy kind of a movie, and then it goes into completely different zones. It becomes dark, it becomes horror at some point in time,
All right.
and there's a bit of a fantasy element involved as well. And by the time you get to the climax, trust me, you're not going to know what hit you. And the climax gets done like that, and the lights come on and you're like, what did I just see? And I couldn't get the movie out of my brain for quite a few days after that. So, and I think rightfully also what the director, this movie ended up winning the best Oscar for that year, and it was the first non-English movie to actually win the Oscar. So before this, all the movies which have won the best picture
Wow.
in 80 plus years of Oscar history, they've all been English movies. This was the first one to break that barrier. Rightfully so. When you'll see it, you'll know that as well. And the director said something very interesting when he won the best director speech as well. He said, if you can break the barrier of those 2-inch subtitles,
Mm-hmm.
you have a whole new world that actually awaits you. The kind of movies that it'll open you up to is amazing, which I thought summed it up so well, right? Because many a times we want to stay in our comfort zone and watch the movies we are familiar with, languages we are familiar with. But once you get comfortable reading subtitles, trust me, after a while you don't even realize, okay, this is a subtitle based movie, because the experience itself is so engrossing, and that's what a good movie should do. A good movie should engross you so much that language just becomes incidental. You connect
True.
with the characters irrespective, you connect with the stories irrespective. So I don't know if I answered that, but yes, I can go on and on.
Yeah, I think I should watch this particular movie because most of the movies that get reviewed, that triggers an interest in me, saying that okay, ये तो देखना पड़ेगा. This was the discussion, and honestly, this got populated on my screen multiple times, and I think I assumed it wrong. I assumed the story would be more like. A zombie movie or something which is like completely something which I don't want to see, and I've skipped it. But looking at the way you've described it, but does it have comedy in it, or it's
It does, but this is the thing. It's kind of black humor. So it's not intended to be funny, but it is funny when you see it, because I'll give you a very brief premise. It doesn't really give away anything about the movie. So this is a story about, the Kims and the Parks, two families, right? Four on one side and four on the other. So the Parks are the really wealthy family, and the Kims are the absolute, they're living in like downtrodden poverty kind of a scenario. And how this family infiltrates the rich Park family one by one, right? And then they take up jobs within the household. So the Parks don't know that the Kims are all a family because they all are doing different jobs in the same household, right? So when you see that, the way they go about doing it and the kind of tricks they do to kind of, they know each other, but then they have to pretend they don't know each other. And then at the end of the day, however, they go back home and they're having a meal together and discussing things. It's all really funny stuff. So the first 20-30 minutes goes into the entire setup of it. You get to see how rich people are sometimes acting so vain, the first world problems that they're having, and they're so far disconnected from reality and what are the actual problems people are facing. And honestly, sometimes it also comes across as a slap in the face, because sometimes you've been on the other side, where
Mhm.
you're the person and there are people who are far more whatever richer than you, and so you connect on in that levels. And sometimes you've been on the other end where you are much more well off than some people, and you find yourself, I have done this without even knowing it. So like I said, it's black humor, but yeah.
Okay. So, but otherwise, what's your style? How did you end up picking up this particular movie to watch?
So I found the storyline very intriguing, honestly, when I saw the trailer, and after that, it started getting quite a lot of attention also, and said, "Okay, I have to see this," because everybody was calling it a masterpiece. I mean, if you go to Rotten Tomatoes, it's full of glowing reviews of it. So, but the thing which piqued my interest was the fact that, okay, a poor family infiltrating a rich family, and so I thought it was going to be more of a cat and mouse game, and kind of they finally discover that these guys are poor and all that, but it's absolutely nothing like that. That's why I said what I went in thinking, even after knowing the trailer, and what I ultimately ended up seeing were just so different that I was blown away.
Okay. So, what's Lavin's style of watching movies?
Honestly, I can't pick a genre, but anything that is a good storyline based stuff, and which has some kind of a character build up, I really like that. So it's okay. I mean, some people find these slice of life movies very boring because people are not really doing much. But as long as the character is really building up, I am ready to invest that much amount of time, as long as there is a payoff at the end of it. So I like story based, character driven kind of movies. So then it could be any genre, it really doesn't matter.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any specific character, any specific artist whom we really loved in this particular movie?
I have to admit I'm not too familiar with their names. My bad. But I think this is a ensemble movie in its truest sense. Like each person has just acted so smashingly well. But I think particularly the people who are portraying the Kims, who are the downtrodden people, I think each one, and you'll agree with me when you see the movie, it'll be so difficult for you to figure out who's really outdoing whom. But they're just brilliant, and I think that's the thing. Even if you see some of the Korean series,
Hmm.
it is, while the story may be centrally about two people or three people, you'll always find that the characters around them are also extremely well developed, and and you will give your attention even to those characters around these people. So can't really pick one character here.
So, what dominated? Was that the storyline? Was that the music? Was that the direction? Or did the characters made a lot of difference? What dominated in the entire movie?
See, so there are quite a few things. So one, the movie is very metaphorical. Again, it starts off. I'll just give you a small example. Like for example, rains, right?
Mhm.
Now, when the Parks are sitting in their home and they have this beautiful lavish home, they've got this complete French window kind of a setup, and so when it's raining, for them it's like a wonderful event. So what do you say, de-stressing to have rains and to just watch the raindrops fall on the beautiful French windows of theirs, right? But at the other end of the spectrum, you have people whose houses are actually getting flooded, right? So it's actually a metaphor. What you perceive, is always only from your point of view, and you can never say that this is the way it is, because for somebody else that same thing may be perceived in a very different way. And even something as simple as a shared weather forecast, right? I mean, the same weather forecast for me, it's going to rain today, would be like, oh, that's wonderful, it hasn't rained in a while. And for somebody it may actually be panic, like, oh, it's going to rain today, I need to kind of take care of things, right? So it's very metaphorical in a lot of sense. That was really good, and I think the direction will blow you away, right? Most of the movie, I think 60 to 70% of the movie is pretty much set in this house, the Park's house, or in the downtrodden family, the Kim's home, right? So it just keeps rotating between these two. So 70% of the movie is actually just based in these two homes, and yet if you are going to be invested in this movie, it's only thanks to the brilliant storytelling. You cannot predict what's coming next. You just can't predict right up until the climax what happens. You just can't predict it, and that's the brilliant. I mean, I just found it so brilliant, I think, and I thought socially speaking, also, it's such a wonderful way to put across a message without coming across as preachy. Right? Nobody's telling you anything in this movie. Yet you will walk home, having a lot of thoughts in your head as to, how you get treated and even how you end up treating people sometimes.
But what worked well for this movie to get such a fame based on the storyline which you're talking? I've not even seen the trailer. The
Yeah.
storyline, the message it's passing on. Such movies don't become commercially hit or become famous or get into Oscars. So what really worked where this became so much got into the limelight?
So this is a story that completely cuts across, I feel, any kind of, that's why language barriers, cultural barriers. I think 95% of the people in the world can relate to this. Can relate to this, at least not in the sense that it's me on the screen, but can relate to the storyline itself. Because, like I said, you have been there, done that, or have been done to, or been done that too, right? This is the reason I feel the movie worked really strongly well, is because it is set up in Korea and you don't really know the world of Korea. But 15 minutes into the movie, you realize it's not too different from, let's say what we see in India also on a day to day basis. Yes, the margins may be a little more different, the rich may be a little less richer, and the poor may be a little more affluent. But at the end of the day, you'll realize quickly the setup, the country absolutely doesn't matter, because people are people at the end of the day. And so I think that really worked well in this movie's favor. And also, it's a very timely movie. If you see, this movie worked big time in a country like US, Europe, etc., countries where we are actually seeing the class divide grow bigger and bigger, and in the 1 year since this movie is released, we've only seen that grow even further, right? If anything, the pandemic has very clearly brought out the fact of the haves and the have-nots, right? And the kind of things. Now, the haves during the pandemic time were obviously, yes, cribbing about the fact that they're working from home while they were getting the coffee, at their desk, and while they had this beautiful house that they were working out of. And the have-nots, clearly the pandemic doesn't work for them at all, right? They need to go out there, search for their livelihood. So I think the class divides, if anything, are growing, and I think that's why thematically this movie is so powerful, and it's going to stay relevant for, I think, many years to come.
So, Lavin, based on your suggestion, who should watch it? Is it for kids? And in what mood should you pick up this particular movie and watch it at one go?
Oh, it's definitely not for kids, so I can tell you that much, because there are some visuals in there which could be quite disturbing sometimes, not many, but definitely not for kids. I would recommend anybody maybe 16 upwards can watch this movie. And the best thing is, don't go in with any expectation. I know even after hearing all this, you may build up. Don't go in with any expectations. Mood, if you're looking for something really light and just frothy to unwind at the end of the day, don't go watching this movie. So I can tell you that much, right? But when you're really in the mood to watch a movie and you like, I have to watch a good movie today, I'll go as far as to say, if you can watch only one movie this year, let this be that movie.
Super. Thanks a lot, Lavin, for joining us on this particular show and taking time out for reviewing this movie, which has been ignored by people like me, Parasite. But we should watch it. So, anything you want to say before we end the show?
No, I just wanted to again, first of all, thank you for this opportunity. And, I want to say this, because when I was wanting to go and watch this movie, so I was trying to gather a crowd with whom I could go. And the minute anybody would hear that it's a Korean movie, they're like,
Yeah.
"कौन देखेगा यार?" And they'd look at me like I'm some kind of, like twisted person. And why am I going and watching a Korean movie in a theater? But what I want to tell is, it's no different, like me watching. I don't know Malayalam, but I watch Malayalam movies and I love them. Right? I watch Gujarati movies, I watch Marathi movies, and Sairat did brilliant business, right? And I don't know Marathi at all, but when you watch it, it doesn't matter if you don't know the language. So look at it that way. Within your own country, there are like such amazing movies being made, and then internationally. So, like he said, break past that barrier of the subtitles. You have an amazing wealth of movies. It'll be very difficult for you to then go back and just watch plain Bollywood movies. Trust me.
So, thank you, Lavin. Thanks a lot again for joining in, and thanks a lot, friends, for watching this particular episode. So, do recommend Parasite, and if you get a chance, do watch it. Have a great evening.